The election numbers still glowed on the main screen in Harrison's transition headquarters. 73% of the popular vote, victories in every major colony, unprecedented turnout across human space. But it was the smaller screens that told the real story. Another fraud attempt exposed in the Mars colony, Whiskers reported, his whiskers twitching as he monitored incoming data. Local citizens caught them trying to tamper with voting machines. Everything documented, everything streamed live. That makes 17 major attempts caught and stopped, Nova added. Not counting the hundreds of smaller incidents. The people really stepped up. Harrison nodded, studying a different set of reports, ones detailing the ongoing arrests of former government officials. Detective Morrow's been busy. 3 more cabinet members taken into custody this morning. Good, I growled, remembering the assassination attempts, the lies, the corruption that had nearly destroyed everything. They need to face justice, all of them. They will, Harrison assured me. No deals, no political compromises. We have evidence of their crimes and they will answer for them in public courts. The people deserve to see justice done. Fang, watching security feeds from outside, spoke up. Speaking of the people, sir, the protests are getting louder. Both sides. He was right. The streets were filled with celebrations in most places, but there were also angry demonstrations by those who still believed the media's lies about Harrison being a dangerous radical. Can't blame them entirely, Harrison sighed. They've been fed propaganda for years. It'll take time for truth to sink in. Some of them don't want the truth, Nova observed. The media's still spinning everything we do. According to the morning shows, these arrests are political persecution rather than justice for actual crimes. Harrison stood, moving to the window to watch the crowds below. Let them spin. We have evidence, we have witnesses, we have truth, and most importantly, we have an awakened public who won't let justice be denied this time. Sir, Whiskers called out, you should see this. First batch of seized documents from the Interior Ministry. The corruption? It's worse than we thought. We gathered around his screens, reading reports that made my fur stand on end. Billions in stolen funds, blackmail operations against colonial governors, secret prisons for political dissidents, and worse. They didn't just steal and kill, Harrison said quietly. They were dismantling democracy itself, piece by piece, building an authoritarian empire while wrapping it in flags and security rhetoric. All the more reason to prosecute them fully, I stated firmly. Show everyone what happens when you betray the public trust. Harrison nodded. Agreed. But we have to do it right. Everything in the open, every piece of evidence public, every trial broadcast across human space. Let people see exactly what they voted to end. Some won't believe it, Nova warned. That 30% who still think you're the villain? They'll call it all fake evidence. Let them, Harrison replied. We're not doing this to convince everyone. We're doing this because it's right, because justice matters, because examples must be set. A priority alert flashed across our screens. More arrests being made, more evidence being secured. The wheels of justice were turning, and this time no one could stop them. Sir, I said, watching the feeds of former officials being led away in restraints. They'll say you're being too harsh, that maybe some compromises. No, Harrison cut me off firmly. No compromises with corruption, no deals with criminals, no political calculations about justice. They tried to kill democracy itself. They need to face the consequences. Fang's tail gave an approving wag. The people will support that. They've seen too much, learned too much, to accept anything less now. Harrison turned back to his transition plans. Good, because this is just the beginning. Prosecuting the criminals is important, but rebuilding what they tried to destroy, that's the real challenge ahead. As if to emphasize his point, more reports flooded in. Colonial governments requesting audits, citizen groups organizing oversight committees, evidence of corruption being exposed at every level. The people had woken up. They had caught the election fraud attempts. They had voted for change. Now they were demanding justice, and justice would be served. Let the media spin, let the protesters shout, let the defeated corruption try to hide. Truth had won. Democracy had survived. Justice was coming. and this time, nothing would stop it. The problem isn't just the corruption, Harrison said, standing before the holographic display of human-controlled space. It's the system itself. Look at how everything flows to Earth, how every decision requires central approval. We were in the Presidential Transition Office, deep in discussion about the future of human civilization among the stars. The room's walls were covered in data streams showing colonial reports, economic analyses, and social metrics. They built it this way on purpose, Nova observed. Easier to control an empire when everything has to go through one central point. Whiskers nodded, his paws manipulating the holographic display. Look at these resource flows. Every colony, no matter how self-sufficient, is forced to route their trade through Earth-based corporations. It's not just inefficient, it's designed for control. And exploitation, I added, remembering the evidence we'd uncovered during the campaign. Every bottleneck is a chance for corrupt officials to take their cut. Harrison studied the display intently. So we don't just replace the corrupt officials, we replace the system that enabled them, sir? Fang asked, his ears perking up with interest. Instead of an empire controlled from Earth, we build a true federation of worlds. Each colony gets real autonomy, real representation, direct trade between colonies, local control of resources, their own security forces. The traditionalists will fight that, Nova warned. They'll say it weakens Earth's position. Harrison smiled grimly. Earth's position is already weak. We just pretend it isn't. These colonies are growing, developing. Try to hold them too tight, and they'll eventually break away entirely. Better to reform now, voluntarily, than face revolution later. What about security, I asked. The whole justification for central control was protecting against alien threats. That's where you come in, Harrison replied, turning to face us. Neo-Dogs directly. What if each colony had its own Neo-Dog security force, not controlled by Earth, but part of a Federation-wide network? Local protection with interplanetary coordination. The idea was revolutionary. Neo-Dogs had always been Earth's creation, Earth's tool. The thought of us serving the colonies directly, being integrated into local security, it would change everything, Whiskers said softly. Not just security, but how people see us. We'd be part of their communities, not outside enforcers. Exactly, Harrison nodded, and it fits with the larger reform. Instead of power flowing from Earth outward, we build connections between worlds, trade, security, culture, all flowing naturally, not forced through artificial bottlenecks. The holographic display shifted, showing potential new trade routes, security arrangements, political structures. A true federation, built on cooperation rather than control. There will be resistance, Nova pointed out. Not just from Earth's old guard, but from entrenched interests in the colonies too. Some people profit from the current system. Let them resist, Harrison said firmly. We have something they don't, public trust. People have seen what the old system produced. They're ready for change. Fang's tail gave an approving wag. And they've seen what real security looks like. Not control from above, but protection from within, like when they helped catch the election fraudsters. Exactly, Harrison smiled. We're not imposing this from above. We're building on what people have already shown they want. Real democracy, real participation, real security. The discussion continued deep into the night. Details needed to be worked out, transitions planned, opposition prepared for. But the core vision was clear. A fundamental transformation of human civilization in space. Sir, I said as we wrapped up, this is more than reform. This is revolution. Harrison nodded. Peaceful revolution built on law and democracy. The kind that comes from hope, not hate, from trust, not fear. As we prepared to leave, a final alert caught our attention. More evidence being uncovered. More corruption being exposed. The old system's rot ran deep. But looking at our plans, at the future we were preparing to build, I felt a surge of hope. The old empire's heart had failed, corrupted by power and greed. But a new heart was ready to beat, one built on trust, on cooperation, on the ancient bond between humans and dogs evolved into something greater. Let them resist, let them fight change. The future was coming, and this time it would serve all of humanity, not just the powerful few. The inauguration was less than 24 hours away, and Harrison's transition office was buzzing with activity. Screens displayed everything from security reports to draft legislation as we finalized the first 100 days agenda. Colonial Autonomy Act ready for introduction on day 1, Whiskers reported, his whiskers twitching as he organized the data, followed by the Anti-Corruption Enforcement Act on day 3. The Federation's security reform package will take longer, Nova added. Too many moving parts to rush it, but the framework is solid. Harrison nodded, reviewing the documents before him. Good. The Neo-Dog integration provisions? All set, I confirmed. Phase 1 begins with training programs in each major colony. By year's end, every settlement should have its own Neo-Dog security unit, locally controlled but federally coordinated. The opposition's already screaming about it, Fang growled. Called it dangerous decentralization of military assets. On the morning news. Harrison smiled. Of course they did, because they understand what it really means, the end of centralized control. Can't manipulate a system when power is distributed. The plans we'd developed were comprehensive: immediate prosecution of corrupt officials, colonial self-governance measures, direct trade routes between settlements, local control of resources and security, integration of neo-dogs into colonial communities, new checks and balances at every level. Sir, Nova said carefully, about the 30% who still oppose you, some of these reforms might push them further away. Maybe, Harrison acknowledged. But we don't need everyone to agree. We just need to show results. When colonies start prospering under local control, when trade flows freely, when people see neo-dogs protecting their communities, actions will speak louder than any propaganda. A priority alert flashed across our screens, another former official arrested, more evidence of corruption secured. The cleanup of the old system continued even as we prepared to build the new. The prosecution teams are ready, Whiskers reported. All evidence organized, witnesses prepared, trial scheduled to begin next month. Everything public, everything transparent. Good, Harrison said firmly. Justice has to come first. Show people that no one is above the law, that corruption has consequences. Then we can build something better. I studied our leader. The man we'd protected, fought for, believed in. When you take the oath tomorrow, this all becomes real, the weight of rebuilding human civilization. Harrison's smile was tired but determined. The weight is already there, Rex. Has been since we started this fight. Tomorrow just makes it official. Fang's ears perked up as another alert came in, this one from the colonies. Sir, you should see this. Local governments are already preparing for the reforms, setting up oversight committees, organizing security training, planning new trade routes. They're not waiting for official approval, Nova observed with approval. They're taking initiative. Exactly, Harrison nodded. That's how we know this will work. People are ready for change. They proved it during the election, catching fraud attempts, protecting democracy. Now they're proving it again, preparing to build something better. As the day wore on, we finalized detail after detail. Every reform carefully planned, every change designed to shift power from the center to the citizens. A true federation built on trust and cooperation rather than control and fear. It won't be easy, Harrison said as evening fell. The old guard will fight us, the media will attack us, some colonies might resist change, preferring the devil they know. Let them, I growled. We didn't come this far to back down now. The others nodded in agreement. We had fought too hard, sacrificed too much to settle for half measures. Tomorrow Harrison would take the oath of office. Tomorrow the real work would begin. Tomorrow we would start building the future we had promised. Let them resist. Let them fight change. Let them cling to their old empire of corruption and control. The future belonged to those who would build it, and we were ready to build something magnificent. For Earth, for the colonies, for all of humanity. Tomorrow couldn't come soon enough. The night before inauguration, after all the plans were set and the office had quieted, Harrison gathered us in his private study. The formal transition work was done, but something else was on his mind. "You know," he said, settling into his chair with obvious fatigue, "in all our planning for everyone else's future, I never asked what you want." We exchanged confused looks. "Sir?" I asked. "Rex, all of you. You've fought for me, bled for me, protected not just me, but the very idea of democracy itself. You've helped plan reforms for every human settlement in space. But what do you want? What would make your lives better?" The question caught us off guard. Neo-dogs were created to serve, to protect. The idea of asking for something for ourselves? "Sir," Nova spoke up gently, "they're not used to being asked that question." Harrison nodded. "I know. That's exactly why I'm asking it. You're not just security assets or political symbols. You're individuals. You deserve a voice in the future we're building." Whiskers was the first to find his voice. I'd like access to more research facilities, not just security tech, but everything. There's so much to learn, to understand." "Done," Harrison said immediately. "Access to all scientific databases and facilities. What else?" Fang shifted his massive frame uncomfortably. "The younger neo-dogs, the ones still in training, maybe they could have more choices? Not everyone has to be security or military. Some might want other roles." "Absolutely," Harrison agreed. "Complete career freedom. Any other dreams?" One by one we started opening up. Nova watched with a smile as we discovered wants and hopes we'd never let ourselves express before. I found myself speaking last. "Sir, I'd like for us to have our own community. Not separated from humans, but a place that's ours, where we can be ourselves, develop our own culture, while still serving and protecting." Harrison's eyes lit up. "A neo-dog settlement, with full rights, full citizenship, full autonomy?" "Yes," I said, surprised by how much I wanted this. A home, not just quarters. A community, not just a unit. "Consider it done," Harrison said firmly. "In fact, consider it a priority. Every reform we're planning for human colonies, you'll get the same rights, the same freedoms, the same opportunities." Fang's tail gave an uncertain wag. "Some will say we're overreaching, that we should be grateful for what we have." "Let them," Harrison cut him off. "You've earned this, not just by fighting and protecting, but by showing everyone what loyalty really means, what service really means." He stood, looking at each of us in turn. "Tomorrow I take an oath to serve all the people under our flag. That includes you. You're not just protectors anymore, you're citizens, full citizens, with all the rights and dreams that implies." I felt something wet on my muzzle and realized I was crying. Looking around, I saw similar reactions from my pack. We'd fought so hard for everyone else's rights, never thinking about our own. "Sir," Nova said softly, "you'll face opposition for this too." Harrison smiled that familiar, determined smile. "Good. Let them oppose it. Let them show everyone exactly who they are and what they stand for. We'll show them what we stand for: equality, justice, and the right of every thinking being to pursue their dreams." As we left his study that night, I felt a new sense of purpose. Tomorrow wasn't just about new laws or political reforms. It was about something more fundamental: the right of everyone, human or neo-dog, to have a voice in their future. We had fought for democracy. We had bled for justice. Now we would build something for ourselves, too. And that, perhaps, was the greatest victory of all. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave it a like and to subscribe if you'd like to see more. Feel free to comment and share it as well. With all that said, go on and check out the video in the top left. I think you might like it.